Hello there, trust your Furahi Day is coming on well this 18th day of the month of June 2021. My name is Grace Josephine. A very warm welcome. A funeral service for the late businessman Chris Kirubi is underway at the Faith Evangelistic Ministries Karen here in Nairobi, with leaders and businessmen present eulogizing him as a businessman who was passionate about his work. Let's cross over there live and listen in.
Fulfilling his purpose, Chris was a man whose life was grounded in extraordinary faith in his ability to triumph over in Matthew 21:21. Truly I tell you, if you have faith and do not doubt, not only can you do what was done to the fig tree, but also you can say to this, go through yourself into the sea and it will be done. And there's a lot of testaments that are being given of what this great man of faith did. It was his faith that gave him the fortitude to fight the disease for 4 years, overcoming all the odds that have been cited by doctors and experts. Second, Chris was a dreamer. Chris was 17, that in faith and God's will, he could call those things that are not as if they are. That was a faith that underpinned his vision to dream about building new cities. Examples are Bipingo in the coast, Two Rivers in Nairobi, Palmarina in Uganda, all of which he dreamed that he could do, and he did simultaneously. The odds and the risks were never really relevant. One of the things he mentioned to me many times was that obstacles are those frightful things you see when you take your eyes off the goal. Chris's eyes were always fixed on his goals, and obstacles and risks were mere inconveniences to be overcome. The third one was that Chris was a man of courage. A man who respected himself and others, and who also demanded to be respected. A man who had the courage to pursue his vision no matter how daunting the odds were, confident that any trials were only temporary and that he would in the end conquer. Chris believed that he could overcome any situation. He knew that faith and abundance could not exist in an environment of fear and lack of faith. When I visited him in the United States in late 2017, in hospital at a time when he was critically ill, he asked me to bring him designs for the house that he was constructing. This was a time when many people would be putting their affairs in order. One of the evenings when we were with him, while praying with him, he asked that I read for him Mark 6, verse 5 to 6. That's a verse where Jesus went to his home village, and it says he could not do any miracles there, except lay his hands on a few sick people and heal them. He was amazed by their lack of faith. Chris told me that miracles are not performed in an environment of lack of faith, and that's why he was building his house, even in the midst of his sickness, because he believed he was going to overcome it. Chris was a mentor. Chris was a man who worked hard to develop other leaders. Like Moses mentored a young Joshua, Chris has mentored several generations of leaders. Many of whom are in the church today, many of whom have spoken, many of whom are following online today. Chris was a student of the biblical Moses. Ask any leader that Chris has mentored, and they will tell you that they've experienced at least 3 of these attributes. Chris empowered people and gave them authority, no matter how young. Chris provided his mentees with experience and opportunity to apply themselves. You've heard for yourselves the testimonies that have been given. Chris gave all those he mentored encouragement and affirmation. Our challenges as his mentees, as those who have been the beneficiaries, is to do unto others as Chris has done unto us, and to speak life into those who we have had the opportunity to lead, so that we too can be fruitful and multiply. The fifth, Chris was generous. Chris was extraordinarily generous. He multiplied that which God blessed him, and he gave it out freely. I was privy to many of his donations and contributions, which were either anonymous or that he requested be kept confidential. The sixth one was Chris was an eagle. Chris was an eagle who flew at high altitude and kept the company of other eagles, and you've heard them. And he sought them. He soared way above small noisy birds like parrots, sparrows, and crows. The seeming big scheme was perhaps because it was out of the hearing range of the noisy chirping of parrots and the crows in his life. He was a true ego who soared way above the chattering parrots, and that is probably why many people never really understood him. Seventh, Chris was a love of knowledge. Chris loved knowledge. He educated himself to the highest possible level. He constantly challenged his assumptions and was constantly innovating. He was a man surrounded by books in his office, at home, and in his bags. He carried books wherever he went, and he bought books wherever we traveled. Finally, he enabled many people to acquire knowledge. And I've seen Governor King there, and he can give you testimony to the 250 people who have students who have gotten scholarships in Vipingo, courtesy of Chris. Chris heeded the advice in Hosea 4:6. My people are destroyed from lack of knowledge. Finally, Chris loved life, and he was not anxious. Chris ate life with a big spoon. In an empire as large as his, it was inevitable that at any given time, one or two of his companies would be facing one challenge or another. Chris had reasons to be anxious. However, Chris was never anxious, even in the face of seemingly daunting and overwhelming personal challenges. Chris lived Paul's advice in Philippians 4:6. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your mind. This is my honest and faithful account of this great man that we lay to rest. Matthew 7:16 has given us the scale to weigh the worth of a man, and says, you shall know them by their fruits. It goes on to say that every good tree bears good fruit. Chris has borne good fruit. He was a good man. He was a great man. He was a man of impact. A creator, a man who fulfilled his purpose, a man who employed the extraordinary talents that God had given him in obedience of God's command to be fruitful. The great writer and poet George Bernard Shaw must have had men like Chris in mind when he penned that immortal poem, A Splendid Torch. This is a true joy of life, the being used for a mighty purpose, the being a force of nature instead of a selfish cloud of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy. I'm of the opinion that my life belongs to the whole community, and as long as I live, it is my privilege to do for it whatever I can. I want to be thoroughly used up when I die. For the harder I work, the more I live. I rejoice in life for its own sake. Life is no brief candle for me. It is a sort of splendid torch which I got hold of for a moment, and I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it on to future generations. Chris was thoroughly used up by the time he rested. His life belonged to the whole community. He worked to the end. He obeyed God's command and was fruitful. His faith shines through in his works and the lives of those whom he has touched. Christopher John Kirubi has fulfilled his purpose, and we thank God for his long and fruitful life. He did not do this alone, and on his behalf I thank all those who worked closely with him, those who loved him, and enabled him to achieve all that he did in his lifetime. I thank God for having given me the rare opportunity to directly share with Chris what he meant to me, and to personally thank him for all that he has been and done in my life. Christopher John Kirubi now belongs to the ages. Fare thee well, our leader, our friend, our mentor. Fare thee well till we meet again.
Glad to know.
The mogul will be buried on Saturday, that is tomorrow, the 19th of June, at his Thika farm in Kiambu County. Now, moving on, civil service union leaders have condemned the Salaries and Enumeration Commission SLC's decision to freeze the revision of salaries for all public servants for the next 2 years. According to the union leaders, SRC cannot make decisions that affect workers on behalf of employers. The workers have given SRC a 14-day ultimatum to retract the resolution that is expected to affect hundreds of workers across the country, warning that they will down their tools as the taxman goes for more taxes and duties to finance the 3.6 trillion shilling budget.
It is absurd that such a body like SRC can wake up one morning to unilaterally freeze salaries. We remain fully opposed to any such move to freeze pay in the public service. And we are giving SRC 14 days during which it should withdraw this illegal declaration, failure to which the entire workforce within the public service in Kenya will be invoking provisions of our constitution under Article 41D and proceed on a nationwide strike without any reference to the government.
Sitting in a corner and making such a unilateral decision is what we are saying no to. We are not going to allow that. It's not going to be business as usual. It is a matter that is affecting lives. It is a matter that is affecting the economy of this country. And as my colleague has indicated, it is these workers who are actually generating this revenue.
Crossing over to the northern part of the country, security officers in Mandera County have called on residents to work hand in hand with security agencies in the region in the fight against the terrorist group Al-Shabaab, with reports rife that the terror group has trained its recruitment guns on youths living in the region. Speaking at a public forum in Takaba, Mandera West, Northeastern Regional Commissioner Nicodemus Ndalana urged parents to be vigilant to ensure safety. Ndalana further called on residents to promptly share information that could be vital in the crackdown of terrorism in the region as well as the neighboring Somalia. The forum was a culmination of a series of consultative sessions attended by elected leaders from Mandera County to address incidents of IED and gun attacks on major roads leading to Mandera.
Lazima punduki ama bunduki. Si lazima silaha kubwa kubwa. Mimi najua Rajaa mwenyewe akikataa akisema hii watu hawezi pitia hapa, hawatapitia kwa sababu kitu moja mtatupatia ujumbe. Kitu kingine iko mtu alisema hata mnaweza piga kelele mkiona ambao watu si wa huko kwenu, because mahali kwengine mahali hakuna bunduki, mahali kwengine ambao panga hazitumiwe ama spears are not used, watu wanashinda wahalifu kwa sababu ya kelele.
Lazima raia wawajibike na waanze kufikiria vile watajilinda. Sio kwa sababu serikali imeshindwa. Serikali imeleta, mimi ninasema kila wakati, serikali imeleta askari. Nikihesabu zile kambi zimekuja the last 9 years ya security na ile response imepatianwa. Na mengi yamebadilika. Mengi yamebadilika kwa sababu Mandera town ilikuwa ikaliki. Every month an average of 9 terror incidents ilikuwa inafanyika in Mandera town.
14 minutes past the hour, and that report brings us to our fast breather. Don't go too far away as we have a lot more lined up for you.
You are watching TV 47, the home of Untold Stories. We have reached endless heights.
Na mtu wangu ni wewe mpenzi wangu.
We have redefined entertainment.
You got to be free!
Unangara.
Shown that there's no limit to creativity and brought to life original Kenyan stories.
Thank you so very much.
And with this, we have given you endless possibilities.
Leo ni ile siku tunasemanga it is a new day.
Tusahau iliyopita. tugange ajayo.
On Maisha Magic East, it's ours truly.
Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Authentic, natural, planned. Transforming. Endless benefits. Slaty, purely Kenyan. Buy now on Jumia or Amazon.
Mimi sipendi unapanguza floor. Hiyo dust uache hapa kwa meza. Clean up. This is a problem, eh? Next time, uende ununue selector yako, utengeneze sandwich zako, uachane na sandwich za boss.
Selector. The difference is in the taste.
You are watching TV47, the home of untold stories.
Thank you for staying with us. As we had earlier mentioned, the funeral service for the late businessman Chris Kirubi is underway at the Faith Evangelistic Ministries Karen here in Nairobi, with leaders and businessmen present eulogizing him as a businessman who was passionate about his work. Ford Kenya Party leader Moses Wetangula is currently addressing the congregants. Let's cross over there live and listen in.
When I was the foreign minister of this country, Chris called me once and said, "My friend, I have invested in Ethiopia and I'm having some difficulties that I need to be sorted out." I told him, "Come to the office in the morning." I go to the office at 6:30 so that we can discuss and see what to do. When I arrived at my office at 6:30, Chris was there waiting for me. He had arrived way ahead of me. That he wanted to do. We sat in my office. I placed a phone call to the then Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Meles Zenawi, and Meles told me, "Moses, if it is somebody that you know well and is having any difficulty with my government, come over with him." The next day, Chris and I were in Addis. We had dinner with the Prime Minister, and I believe the issues that Hako Industries was encountering in Addis were resolved. That is how practical Chris was. So as we come here today, we learn one lesson: that Kenyans can truly, in working hard, build Kenya. And Kenyans working hard can change the lives of fellow Kenyans. The last issue I want to say about Chris is his friendship with people beyond the borders of our country. Chris was a very close friend, not just as an honorary consular of Ghana, but of the former president of Ghana, John Kufuor, who also happens to be my close friend. Every time I have spoken to Dr. John Kufuor on phone, he has asked me about Chris. He's told me how Chris used to visit him. And you Kenyans may recall when we had election difficulties in 2007, 2008, Dr. John Kufuor was the chairman of the AU.
and he came here to bring sanity to the warring sides of our politics. When he was here, he was permanently in company of Chris Kirubi. I used to join them at the Intercon for a cup of tea, for a dinner, and you could see the chemistry between the two. And John Kufuor said, if Kenya has one man who has got a knack and an eye for entrepreneurship, it is this man, Chris. And you can imagine that was a president, the chair of AU, but they were on first name terms with Chris. Chris called him John, he called Chris, Chris. That is the camaraderie of our fallen brother, that he touched others. Fare thee well, my brother Chris, Andrew, your family, and the entire Chris family, the Musangis, if they're here, those are my brothers from Western. We stand here to say, may the good Lord rest the soul of Chris in eternal peace. That is the journey that we all are going to end up. And those who have spoken here, please carry on his legacy, hold the industries he has built, hold the enterprises he has developed, so that they can continue building our economy, so that this country can move to the next level. Thank you.
Our heartfelt condolences to the Chris Kirubi family, even as Kenyans continue paying their tributes. Moving on, congestion and long tiresome walks marked the third test runway at the newly built multi-billion shilling Green Park terminus in Nairobi. The test run that commenced from 5 a.m. on Friday saw public service vehicles plying Langata and Ngong roads drop off and pick passengers at the new bus terminus, with the majority of passengers complaining of long walks to and from the central business district.
Ile shida nimeona, hata sikuwa nimejua gari imehamishwa hapa. Nimetoka kutoka BS, nimeambiwa hakuna gari huko, gari ni hapa. Sasa tumerudi kwa shida, sababu kutoka huko mpaka kutembea hapa ni shida. Sababu gari ni shida. Saa nyingine unafuata kalanda anakuja na unakuta kalanda saa enda. Kutembea mpaka huko ufike hapa unachoka. Sasa mimi naona hii ndio sasa tumeweka kwa shida nyingine sijawahi ona.
Hii mambo ya kuleta terminus imekuwa ngumu kabisa. Tunafikiria hata tungekaa tu town ingekuwa afadhali. Ndio hapa tunakaa 2 hours. Bwana Uhuru anafaa afikirie maneno. Na angalie watu wa hii nchi, sababu wametuumiza, watu wa matatu wameumia kila mahali.
The information that we are getting is pretty satisfactory to us. We know there are challenges. We know there were challenges in the first test run, we corrected them. There were challenges in the second test run, picking, we corrected that. And there are still a few challenges on the third one. But the third one is moving much smoothly because we are taking a very big volume of the vehicles that were in the CBD.
Vehicles coming to town from Langata Road will reach Mbagathi roundabout. They will go to Madaraka roundabout. They will go to Nyayo Stadium. From Nyayo Stadium, they will come to Bunyala. At Bunyala, they will be diverted or directed to take Lower Hill Road. Then they join Haile Selassie, Lower Hill Road, Haile Selassie roundabout junction, then into the terminus. Ngong Road, because we had targeted Ngong. Ngong Road will come up to City Muchari. They will pass near Nairobi area, join Ngong Road at Library, come straight past NHIF and join, enter into the park.